So what do you want?
What do I want? I want to use my degree for good, and in general.
I kind of meant like a muffin or a latte.
I want a job with a generous work-from-grocery-store policy.
You are here a lot.
Debbie, please, I'm working.
I want a job that will change the world.
Ma'am, this is a drive-thru.
And some nuggets.
With LinkedIn's new AI-powered job search, you can find roles that match your unique skills, so you can dare to discover more. Visit linkedin.com/jobs to learn more.
Hello, everyone. Before we dive into today's episode, I wanted to remind you that my book, Drummers on Drumming, is available now on Amazon as both a paperback and an ebook. Based on the Big Fat 5 segment of this podcast, where I sit down with my favorite drummers to discuss the 5 records and stories that shaped their approach to the instrument, this book is packed with insights from the drummers who redefined how we think about the modern drum set. You can grab your copy now by checking the link in this episode's show notes or simply searching Drummers on Drumming on Amazon. So thank you for all the support, and now let's get into the show. Well, I mean, we can start, boys. So I'm here with Mark Stepro and Kris Mazzarisi, 2 friends of the podcast. You guys have been on a lot. And people that have been listening, they know, and this is not going to be a pity party for me again, but a certain gig didn't work out for me recently. And so I kind of had to think, okay, well, there's a lot of open space right now. And I haven't been in the situation in a long time, luckily, pre-pandemic, where my schedule's not full and my roster of bands are not obviously going to keep me busy enough for the year. And so I was like, all right, so I kind of have to get in the mindset of someone who kind of just moved to LA and to get the feelers back out that I'm a working drummer, that I'm available, and insert all that stuff here. So if you had to start from scratch again in LA, what would you do in 2026 if you had to start over again?
Well, like if I didn't know anybody or if I just was out of a gig, because those are two totally different approaches.
Maybe in the situation with you right now, I don't know intimately exactly the bands you're with, but besides the Wallflowers and Butch Walker and stuff, if those bands dried up for some reason, what would you do?
Yeah, let's do that example, because trying to go into the hypothetical of like, I just moved to LA and I don't know anybody and it's 2026 and I'm trying to be a professional drummer.
Yeah. And you're in your 40s, have a family and kid.
Just don't do that.
Just like, you're done.
That's a dumb idea. But, what I would do. So yes, Wallflowers is kind of the main, it is my main gig. Like I play with Butch when I can, but he's playing guitar in Train. He's doing reunion gigs with his band Marvelous 3. It's been a long time, and it probably will be a long time until Butch does a tour. And even when he does, it's a couple weeks. So that's not a huge chunk of time. Wallflowers is like most of my year. And sorry, this is a lot of throat clearing preamble-y stuff to answer your question, but I think it's important.
It is, yeah.
So that adds up, like that gig is most of my year because Jakob Dylan wants to play about 120, 130 gigs a year. So it ends up being about 150 days. It's like half-ish, a third to a half of the year. And I have a 10-year-old son, and when I'm not doing that band, I'm just trying to be home. I'm not... Some guys in the band, because it's not a retainer gig, it can't be. It'd be unreasonable to expect Jakob to keep people on a retainer for 150 shows a year. He's just not an arena act or whatever. So, people have to figure it out in the meantime. For me, that figuring it out looks like I basically am a stay-at-home dad, but then I do stuff locally. I play with Kris Masterson and Why Not and all those guys around town and do these little things like I was doing today. But if that band ended tomorrow, and it can end at any moment, as you know, like that gig can go away. I kind of bend over backwards to make it clear that I'm not like in the Wallflowers. I'm not on a record contract. You know what I mean? Like, so I'm not trying to claim that I am. So I can be let go at any time, just like the monitor engineer or anybody else. And if that happened, I would call you. I would just call all of my friends. And I would do it individually, and I wouldn't send a mass text. I wouldn't send a mass email. I'm not a big social media guy, so I don't know how much I guess I would maybe do a post, but that's not, my whole source of power is through personal relationships with people that I've known for 20 years. And I would go to all them and I would just say, hey, not trying to be a douche, just letting you know, I don't know how much you were thinking about me, probably not, but if you were, and you were assuming that maybe I was busy with this band, just letting you know I'm no longer busy with this band. So, man, just no gig is too big, no gig is too small. Just keep me in mind, whatever. And I don't think that that's like an obnoxious, self-promoting, narcissistic, that's you're just letting people know because they don't know. Like, I think you, Ben, were in that band Cannons, or sorry, you were not doing that gig for like months before I caught wind of it. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And so in my mind, I'm like, yeah, Ben, he does the podcast, he does Cannons, he sometimes does Eve 6. And then at one point you were like, no, dude, I'm not doing that. They slowed down, blah, 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 whatever. So then I'm like, oh, cool. All right. So I'm filing that away and just, it comes up in conversation. Oh, you know who I was talking to Ben Hilsinger the other day, and did you know he's not doing that Cannons thing anymore? And it's like the reverse of out of mind, out of sight. It's like in mind, in sight, where I'm not saying it'll happen 80% of the time or even 50% of the time, but it's very possible that you would call one of the 100 people that you know who do music in LA, and they might go, oh, dude, thank you for letting me know. So-and-so just called and was just asking about blah, 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 and what are you doing on Thursday? And if you hadn't done that, and if you had just waited for the world to figure out that the great Ben Hilsinger is unavailable, it might take a little while longer. So, and like I said, I don't know, rural Midwest, I'm very averse to like self-promoting stuff or whatever. I'm kind of allergic to that. So, but I don't think that is what that is. Does that make sense?
100%. And whenever someone calls me and asks about that, I don't judge them. I don't be like, God, that's a douchey thing. And it's funny that you even had to preface it with that, because I would do the same thing. I'm like, I don't want this to come across cringe, but it's like, it isn't cringe, but I guess maybe I have a hard time acknowledging, or I guess letting people know that I'm not Mr. Well-off that can insert whatever here. It's like you're also letting them know, like, I kind of need some help.
Yeah, but let me help you with this. The thing that helped me with that was that whole shtick that I just told you. I got that from Fred Eltringham, and he did that when he didn't get let go. I think he maybe quit Wallflowers and called, I don't know if it was Wallflowers or Dixie Chicks or something, but he had finished a gig. Mm-hmm. And he went around to people and said, hey, just letting you know, I think it was called Gary Loris from the Jayhawks, and said, hey, all the stuff that I just said. And Gary said, oh, cool. Well, Sheryl Crow's looking for somebody, so let's talk to her, blah, blah, blah. And I'm just thinking, so as it applies to you and guys like me, it's like, well, if Fred Eltringham can do that, then I can do that. You know what I'm saying? Like, sure. If guys who are super at the top still have to let people know that they're available, then we can probably do that,
Yeah, absolutely. It's a mental block I need to get over. What about you, Kris? I mean, I know you're in a different situation as well, but what would you do if you wanted to do it? Maybe the Big Fat Snare Drum factor is interesting and maybe throws a little wrench in it, but if you weren't,
But, Kris, what if the hypothetical, to sort of tailor it to your situation, was you were no longer active with Big Fat Snare Drum? So like you sold the business.
I'd be so rich. I'd be on a boat with a lot of chicks.
Yeah.
Okay, well, congratulations.
At the same time.
Thanks. No, I mean, I was in LA kind of doing the thing for a while too. And I think everything you said, Mark, was perfect. I agree with that 1,000%. I think the only thing I would add to it, and I don't know if that's a douchey factor, is I guess try to get in touch with musical directors. Mm-hmm. And I would go out on auditions. I worked at SIR in Los Angeles for a while. And I don't think it's like this anymore, but I'm maybe to an extent it might be, where you just see like the roll call of drummers, just, musicians coming in for tryouts for like American Idol bands and voice bands. And I don't know how you would do it, but I would say try to get on one of those roster email lists where you're coming and trying out for bands, and you try out in front of the MD and you might not be the right fit for insert American Idol 2026 winner, but maybe they're like, oh, I have this other pop artist that's going out and their drummer just quit or got fired, and you're in their brain. Exactly what you said, but I don't know, maybe I would add the MD pathway.
No, dude, that's super smart. So like using that to jump off of that, I would call like Drew Taubenfeld and Max Bernstein and those guys and just say exactly what I just said, just like, hey man, you got anything for Dave Cook, one of those guys, exactly what you're talking about, because those guys, to the extent that they think about me, which is probably almost never, they are my friends and have been for a long time. And they're just like, yeah, he's doing Wallflowers. Why would I bug him about doing some gig? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But in this case, in this hypothetical, you're going, no. I am bugging you, like just let me know, And also, again, to my point about the, long relationship, I don't go to that well. I've never asked Drew Taubenfeld for a gig. You know what I mean? So like you make it count when you need it to count. You know what I mean?
Yes.
But if you're like always tugging on these guys' pant legs, bugging them about stuff, they might be a little more recalcitrant. But if you're like, oh, Ben, wow, yeah, dude, I'm glad you called. Holy crap, yeah, let's find something for you right now, you know?
Recalcitrant. Damn, that was a good one.
Like I stole that from Bad Religion.
Yeah. Nice poetry, dude.
Kidding. Yeah.
I was gonna say we're gonna take a billboard out for Ben on Sunset. I'm available.
That's hilarious. Some guy probably did that.
We could probably name a few people that would do that.
I'm not below it, or I'm not above it. I guess I would be below it if it's a fucking billboard of me.
Yeah, man. But if we're gonna zero in on and zoom in on this conversation, I would argue,
Yeah.
you know, cast a wide net, all that, and like,
Sure.
it's not a zero sum game. You know, you can call Drew Taubenfeld and also put up a giant billboard on Sunset if you want, but I would bet $100 that your next gig is going to come from somebody that you know well personally.
I keep telling them that. Yep, it's going to be a phone call.
Yeah.
Well, that's why it's so interesting when people ask me, I'm just moving to LA, or insert here, because again, they view me as some authority with Big Fat and then the podcast. And really, I've auditioned maybe twice in my entire career. It's always been through what you just said. So I don't have an answer for it. I guess it's just, go out and meet people. And I mean, the advice that I've been giving recently is they tell you to go to shows 6 days a week. You should never be home. If you're trying to get gigs, you should never be home, to go out. And it's like, okay, yeah, for sure. But there are some people where that social interaction is, they don't excel in that. They have social anxiety, which in many ways, yes, you should get over that, or not get over that, but work on that, because that's the hard part of the job for sure. But I found a way through the podcast and through being stupid and memey on Instagram with Big Fat. That's how I've interacted and maintained relationships with so many people through an avenue that I feel comfortable with, which is the one-on-one conversations when there's not a band in the background. It's just happens to be a podcast, but that's what works for me, and it's helped me a lot. So I guess my advice for people listening is to find the way that makes you comfortable in networking, and then find a way to make that work for you. Don't just do what people tell you to, which is to put yourself in uncomfortable situations, because sometimes if you're not a good people person, or you're not in that spot that makes you feel comfortable, it's sometimes better not to introduce yourself to that person,
Okay, well, yes, but let me push back on this, because I do think about this a lot. And I don't mean to come off like Simon Cowell here, but it's like, if you're not a people person, and I don't mean a raging, flaming extrovert, but if you're not at some level a people person, I'm not really sure what you're doing trying to do music. You're introverted, and then you use your social media, your email, and somehow land a gig. But then let's say you get the gig, you have to hang out with people all the time. And if that's not what you enjoy doing, then I'm not really sure why you would even be pursuing that. I don't mean to be super black and white about it, but it's like, I get that it's like a spectrum and all this kind of stuff. Like, you're not one thing or the other, blah, blah, blah. But if you just genuinely are like, yeah, I don't like being around people. I don't like being in crowds. I don't like being out around music. I'm like, well, then you're barking up the entirely wrong tree, because even if you succeed at this, which you won't, because it seems like you don't really want to do this anyway, you'll be in this situation where you're just uncomfortable. Do you know what I mean?
Well, and my push, and I love this is finally a drum panel episode where people actually disagree. So
I mean, that's I'm making a really extreme version of that argument just for this purpose.
It's a great point that I'm sure some people listening when I was talking were thinking the exact same way. And so my argument to that, not argument, but my viewpoint on that is, when I say introvert, I more so mean, because I don't necessarily think that introvert means you have social anxiety or whatever. I think an introvert means, for me, that you gain energy when you're either by yourself or around people that you feel you can be yourself around. And so when I have a gig that I feel that it's my crew, I know these people, they know me, then I can hang out with 15 people on a bus all night and I don't get drained. Right. So that's my... But it's when I'm in situations where I don't feel like I can be myself, and then my ADHD goes crazy, that's when it drains me, and then I become this person that I can't really talk to people, So I guess that's the introversion I more so talk about is that element of me.
Right. So let's take your example. Let's take that example of you need to go out 6 nights a week and blah, 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 blah. So let's drill into that. So the reason that might not work for everyone, or even most people, what if we said, go out, because you're talking about, like, I get strength and energy from people that I want to be around. Go out to gigs that you want to go out to, and go see bands that you want to see with people that you want to hang out with. and don't go to this gig because I feel like I might meet somebody there and I'm going to go to this gig and I'm going to network. Do you know what I mean? Like, because then you've imposed all this pressure on it and you're not going to come off sincere because you're not sincere, because you're clearly there to like advance something for yourself. And that's weird. And you can smell that coming off somebody a mile away. And like that way you could reduce, you're not just scattergun going out 6 nights a week. Oh, my friend is playing at Zebulon and that's close to my house and I love Zebulon and they have a good drink that I like there and my friend lives close by and we're going to hang out. Like, and maybe, I guess what I'm saying is like target your strikes a little bit more in order to prevent that kind of discomfort that you're talking about. So you're set up to succeed before you even walk in the door.
I love that because sometimes I can get very black and white about it where I think I'm going to a show, I don't know everyone there. So that means, like I don't think about, well, how about you curate it? How about you take a little bit of time, make a calendar, advance stuff, like figure out what's going to make you feel comfortable, make plans with people,
Yeah.
And also Mike Robinson, when he was on, because we actually had an episode maybe a year ago talking about social anxiety. He's like, whenever I invite out a friend, I always ask them like that he's super comfortable with. He asks them to bring a friend. So it's 3 people.
That's cool.
Then you meet someone else but you're with your buddy. So you're super comfortable. And I mean, it seems so generic and obvious, but for me, sometimes it really isn't that obvious. And I've been lucky that I've navigated in a way that it works for me. But I always wonder if I'm leaving stuff on the table with that. But what about you, Kris? I mean, you can talk to anyone, which is a big reason why Big Fat Snare Drum even became what it was. I mean, because right now I'm going through some of our emails and kind of just cleaning house on stuff to declutter our mailboxes. And I'm going through like what you started back in 2014 and just, I mean, you knew so many people. So how did you navigate that in your world?
I don't know. I'm not like an extrovert person by any means. I'd like to stay home and do nothing. Like I like to wear sweatpants and stay home. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I think just out of necessity, I needed to just make it happen. So I did whatever I could to talk to everybody. Just as an example, like doing NAMM and stuff and doing trade shows, I always start off the morning as pretty shy. And then once I get into a groove, I'm able to just kind of work it. Going back to what you guys are talking about, I totally understand what both of you guys are talking about. I think I'm kind of like maybe in your camp a little bit, Ben, where it's just, like you don't want to come across as unauthentic and kind of like a cheese ball doing this stuff. I totally understand. I don't think I could do it. I'm in a band with my brother, and I think that's my end story for me as a drummer. Unfortunately,
it's a great band, by the way. Winnetka Bowling League, if people don't know.
Well, thank you, but that's it for me. Like I'm going to be 48 next month, and I don't think that I don't think I'd have the strength, and I don't think I would be the guy going to LA. I would probably sell off most of my gear and maybe do a cover band in Boston with a bunch of old dudes. Mm-hmm. But so I'm not the guy to answer that question. I just know from the past.
Not that guy, pal.
I want to focus on the sweatpants of it all because I too I'm 44 and it's like there is an age element to it for sure. And I'm not trying to like let you off the hook, Ben, but when I was 24 and I moved to New York, my apartment was something that I slept in, and that was it. And I was out every night because I wanted to be out every night because I was 24, and that's what you're supposed to do when you're 24. But now I'm 44, and I want to go to bed at 9, and I want to read a book to my son and, watch TV with my wife and sweatpants and all that stuff. And like, it's just, inertia sets in as you get older. So you have less, I'm talking this big game about how it's important to go out to gigs, but like, I don't really do that now. But I did do that a ton when I was younger. And that's why I have the friends that I have now, because when I was younger, I was out constantly. But I think that it's, once you get to be my age, Kris's age, like you're not going to go out 6 nights a week. That's just not really sustainable or realistic. But it just depends on who's asking you the question, Ben. If it's some kid who just graduated from Belmont, I would be like, you better get out there or whatever. Mm-hmm. But it's a little unrealistic for an older guy, like, what am I going to do? Go to a bar? Yeah.
But do you think though, because when you were 24, the world was totally different with no social media, no internet. Do you think that, I don't want to say like hustle culture of getting a gig, but it kind of is, that you maybe could do more of that hustle culture online and be strategic that way rather than running to shows 6 days a week?
I mean, there's no way to answer that. Yeah, I do keep in contact with so many people on Instagram and I feel like I'm close to them, but it's like, but I probably would be closer to them if I saw them half as much, but in person. So who knows?
I could say this. I could say, so my sister-in-law just started playing shows again, and they kind of came to me for some drum recommendations when she was getting everything together. And initially, I kind of went on just stuff of people that I know from social media.
Really?
You know? Yeah. I mean, I gave them a list. I was like, this is the list from high to low.
Why did you bypass the list of people that you know, like, for real?
There was like a specific thing that they were looking for. And so then
I see.
Yeah, it was a specific thing that they were looking for. And I hit my Rolodex of like, do I know anybody in real life that would be that? No. But do I know people in real life-ish, like from Instagram, that I'm friendly with or friends with? Yes, of course. And so then I gave the list of like who I think. So in a weird way, I was kind of vetting using social media, you know, but people posting on social media. And I would say probably more than half the people that I suggested, I don't even know if they ever had a real gig. Like, I know some of them maybe did a little bit of touring. Some of them were just slayers. I'm just like, this is this person, this person, this person. This is my order. I don't know. That came to my brain after I just mentioned the whole social media thing, but just do good work, I guess, right?
This year, I kind of ended last week's episode with saying that one of my resolutions would be to track my progress a little more with what I'm working on. Because now I don't, obviously, the last 6 months I've been lucky enough to be very busy. So it was just learning songs and rehearsing the songs and making sure. And so now when I go to my practice spot, I'm trying to be a better drummer. Do you guys, Mark, I know you're a practice fiend. So how do you track progress?
I don't know that I'm pretty bad at that. I don't really quantify. I know super nerdy guys that keep a journal and all that kind of stuff. And I can keep myself, we've talked about this a million times, but it's like I can keep myself busy. And I think you were using the JP Bouvet lesson thingy for a while. Yeah. Is that right? Because, I always felt like one of my many Achilles heels was improvisation and like flow on the kit, all that kind of stuff, vocabulary, basically. So that has been extremely helpful in developing that beyond just here's this chop, memorize this chop, and then I don't know what to do except play this chop, So that's been super helpful. And I'll just improvise for an hour. And yeah, I'm not quantifying it. I'm not really taking a tab of it, but I'm honest with myself. I know if I did a good hour of work or not, if I'm taxed. I can be pretty honest with myself about like, okay, yeah, you did something. You for real did something. I remember I had a friend in college who was like, he would go to the practice room and he would come back at the end of the day and, hey, how was your day? And he was, oh man, I was in that practice room for like 5 hours today. And I realized that like what in his mind, he was sort of like self-soothing by saying like, well, if I was physically in the practice room for 5 hours, then clearly I've done all this work. And I'm like, I'm not really sure that's how that works, and to the sort of the Dave Elitch of it all of like, well, yeah, you sat in the room for 5 hours, but what's the protein of like, did you get anything done in there or did you scroll Instagram the whole time or whatever? I'm not doing a very good job answering that question. The point is I don't physically, take down my progress, but I know if I made it or not, if that makes any sense.
I guess it was more so to piggyback off that. How do you figure out what to work on? Because at that point, in order to figure out, well, I'm going to work on this, it's because you kind of subconsciously figured out this metric in my head isn't where I want it to be, so I want to work on that. So I guess it's more so, how do you figure out how much time to invest in left-hand technique or this, or is it one of those today's mistakes or tomorrow's practice? Do you just go like, oh, fuck, I tried to make this thing happen in this Wallflowers verse. It didn't work. So next week I'm going to work on the E's on my ghost notes or something,
Yeah. There's a couple things in our Wallflowers set that are just feels that I'm not good at, that I'm just like, shoot, okay, like I learned the song, but I'm going to have to like spend 15 minutes playing this feel just again and again and again until it gets, so I'm not thinking about it on stage. Yeah. But in terms of like we've talked about this before, like that's learning songs, like that's necessary and that's part of the job, but like that's not practice. That's like you're doing a professional Kris Mazzarisi, you're ordering material for your Big Fat Snare Drum and like, you know what I mean? Like that's a work thing or whatever, and you need to do that. But practicing is more open-ended. And, sometimes I'll just let my imagination, I'll purposefully let the YouTube algorithm, the quote unquote mindless scrolling, I'll use that to my advantage. And I'll literally just type in Elvin Jones. And then 2 hours later, I've gone, into some other category and I'm working on something else. Another thing I'll do is like a deep dive on an artist, you know? So at the end of the month, for example, this is a gig thing, so this doesn't count technically according to my super crummy standards. But like we're doing this AMA benefit. No, it's not a benefit, but it's a pre-Grammy salute to Neil Young, and all these artists who are nominated for Americana Grammys are going to play Neil Young songs, and I'm playing in the house band. So I'm going to spend the next 2 weeks just learning all about Neil Young, and I'm going to let myself off the hook because some of that is just Wikipediaing and YouTube scrolling and learning, you know, who Ralph Molina was versus this guy, you know what I mean? And some of it's going to be actual practicing, learning harmonies, learning parts, learning tunes. The drumming of Neil Young is not exactly Mensa level, so it's not like that's not really the issue, but it's just about learning all those songs and just really being familiar with that music and really understanding it, so it doesn't just sound like, oh, that's like a professional musician who learned some Neil Young songs. I want it to sound like this guy belongs doing this music, you know what I mean?
Año Nuevo, los mismos Extra Value Meals en McDonald's. Ahora te puedes llevar 2 snack wraps y papitas y una bebida mediana por solo $8. Solo por tiempo limitado. Precios y participación pueden variar. Los precios pueden ser más altos en Hawaii, Alaska y California y con entrega.
Kris, I mean, for you, I wish you would play my drums more because whenever you send me live videos of you playing it, you sound incredible. But I mean, I know that you really mostly just practice for tours. And so how do you, I mean, when you sit on a drum set, what's your like, all right, I got to make sure this is good. Or is it just, if I can execute the songs, I'm happy?
Before I answer that, I was going to say, Mark, you should also deep dive into Neil Young's Lionel Train collection.
Yeah, dude.
What's that?
No, he's like a
freak.
massive, he's a freak with like model trains. It's like insane. Actually, so funny enough, we recorded some new songs over the weekend and I actually realized I have not recorded drums in probably like 10 years. I thought it was longer than that, but then my brother brought up, I actually played on the Shania Twain record like 10 years ago. Played a bunch of songs on that just like randomly. And so he's like, oh, that was the last time you recorded. And I was like, oh yeah, that was the last time I recorded. But something that I really improved on this last recording thing was I always freeze up as soon as the click starts. And I always freeze up when the engineer's like, try this kick pattern, or lay off on this and stop playing so hard and stop burying the beater and just getting in my own head. And also going to the recording session kind of ill prepared. And I think I sat down, I had a guide drum track on the songs to learn, but I really sat down and practiced before I left, which is kind of rare for me also. Usually I'm just like learning the songs on the plane on the way there and like writing them in a notepad, like chicken scratch. But I sat down and learned. I played on my electronic kit at night. I did it a bunch of times. And I really focused in on parts and writing interesting parts and writing parts that were a longer phrase that I'm usually more comfortable with. So I think that really helped. And I think I got into that session a lot more prepared than I usually am. And it was a lot more enjoyable. I didn't have any problem with the click. I wasn't getting nervous. I kind of banged out 2 songs in probably like 45 minutes. It was super easy.
What was the setup? Was it like you and an engineer, or was it you with the whole band, or was it you just sending in tracks?
So my brother has a studio. He's the singer of the band that I play for. So he was there in the control room. He just bought a new spot. And then the engineer too, who's also, I guess he's co-producing the record with him. So it was just those 2 guys in the control room and just play back with some click. And that was it. Went for it. Yeah. So it was just, it was a question of seeing that. And I was actually really happy with the end result of coming back and listening a little bit. And I was like, oh, wow, I'm usually so freaked out. My playing usually sounds like garbage when I go back into the control room. It's just really wobbly when I record. But yeah, I put the time in and it actually worked.
Yeah, it sounds like you're just describing like the confidence and the comfort and the fluidity that comes with preparation.
Yeah, and a little bit of practice, because I usually don't practice. Like Ben said, unfortunately, it's I don't have, between my business and my family and just normal life, unfortunately, drums always go on the back burner. And I think it's like every December, I'm like, I'm going to sign up for Drumeo and I'm going to do drum lessons for 30 minutes a day. And then I'm like, no.
Yeah, but the preparation clearly served you well in that moment, you know?
It did. Yeah. Actually, before I was practicing every day too, I was trying to learn like new 1975 fills, and that would get me excited, and then I would practice. So I was watching YouTube videos.
I bet it saved time at the session, and I bet everybody noticed, you know? It was probably like a lot more effortless because, like you said, you're not freezing up over like, oh shoot, he just added a 8th note in my kick pattern. Now what am I going to do? You know what I mean? It's like you gamed out what to do. That's cool.
Yeah, it was cool because like even we'd go like section by section on certain parts and like, oh, just try a couple of different variations on fills, try this kick pattern, and then like, oh, let's just get one for safety. And it was really refreshing to play the entire song all the way through with some of the changes that we discussed along the way, and just get one for safekeeping.
Yeah, man.
And it was cool to be like, oh yeah, I practiced it and executed, and it was an enjoyable experience rather than stressing and freaking out.
So they did it like, well, let's just do the verse. Let's just nail that verse down. Then let's do the chorus. They kind of did it piecemeal like that.
One of the songs we kind of I played straight through, and then we went back, and then he's just like, oh yeah, give me a couple of different variations on this part, fix the kick pattern, try some different fills on the outro, go crazy on this. And actually, one of the other song that they sent me, it cut off because it wasn't even finished when they sent me the rough demo. So then I had to learn on the spot. It was a cool ending where the song just got like faster and faster and faster, like a runaway train at the end. Mm-hmm. And so the click was just like moving, which it would have been nice to practice that, but it was also kind of interesting just doing it on the spot where it's like, they're like, oh yeah, this part, it's just going to get faster. Keep playing.
I do want to say publicly, thank you, Mark. You reached out after the last episode, and it was nice to, commiserate with you for a second. So
yeah,
appreciate that, man.
I understand that position that you're in, and I know, you got a lot of mileage. What we talked about, without giving anything away that we shouldn't, like, you got a lot of mileage out of that. That's exactly what I was talking about when I was talking about doing a deep dive into an artist. Mm-hmm. You did a deep dive into this artist that you were trying to get a gig with, and they're a good band, and it was probably really productive. So whether you get the gig or not, you still get the benefit of the improvement that has been attributed to your playing as a result of the time that you put in. I think we talked about, maybe we didn't talk about this, but it's like it was very healthy that you controlled the things that you could control, and then the things that you can't control, like, what are you going to do? If mm-hmm. they ended up going with the bass player's homie from college, or you didn't have the right pants on, or whatever the case may be, like, that's not, you can't control that, but you showed up and knew that material, and you deserved to be in that room with those people. And I have to imagine there are plenty of times where people don't get gigs where it's not like, all these guys sucked, but this one guy was good. You know what I mean? It's never that. It's always like, man, these guys are all pretty awesome. What are we going to do? So I'm sure, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's not like everybody else didn't fail. One guy just happened to be what it was they were looking for, you know?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think it was your motion sickness. You didn't get that Motley Crue gig because of the motion sickness for the roller coaster. That's what it was, right?
Yeah, that's a pretty big part of the gig, man.
If we could go back, because I'm just curious, what drained you guys last year in the music industry that you want to change for yourself? If you can control it, what was your biggest drain on your career last year? Mine was my shame around how and I know it's the most overdiagnosed thing in the world, and so I get even insecure bringing it up, but officially getting an ADHD diagnosis, which was good for me because I would always just blow it off and be like, oh, everyone has it, or I would think of it just being a little overactive boy. But once I got it and actually started researching it and realizing tendencies that I had or things that I felt shame about in regards to human interactions or just the way my brain worked, that was the first half of last year. It was getting to the point where it was becoming very draining. That was my biggest source of weight last year that is now gone.
I guess a drain for me that I could talk about that I don't know what the solution is moving forward. It's kind of a perpetual drain, and it's a perpetual process working around, is just the being away from my family and the stress that puts on my wife, who also works and who also has a career. And, it's not super emotionally stressful on my son, but it's stressful on me. And the dance that we're always kind of doing to try to make sure that I'm connected to them and that they're connected to me and that I'm doing as much that I can remotely from the road, from the house, just in terms of like, look up how much we paid for the water bill last year and email so-and-so and stuff like that, kind of like holding up my end of the home bargain or whatever. But that's a perpetual drain that I don't, not to be morbid or fatalistic, but I don't know that really, that's like more like a chronic condition. You know what I mean? Like that has to be managed. So I'm always, wallflowers are going out in April, and I'm already trying to take care of certain projects at the house to just so that I can feel good about like, okay, I'm not leaving them in the lurch. Like I'm leaving on my front leg and not on my back leg. You know what I mean? Stuff like that. So while that can't really necessarily be solved, and it is kind of like I say, like a chronic condition, I'm at least always kind of managing it and always trying to attack it and always trying to find little ways that I can help out around the house and sort of be closer to them, even though I'm gone a lot.
Yeah, I agree too. And not getting the gig and then having an open schedule for the most part was really making me realize, all right, I have a chance to really double down on setting it up to where I don't outsource my value. Because I realized that when I didn't get the call, I was like, I hate the fact that I'm at the beck and call of just whatever the bands I'm working with, how busy they want to be or just a direction they want to go, as opposed to having more things that are for me. Because I do want a family. I do want to eventually have a lot of things. And the route that I was going down, just because when I moved to LA 10 years ago, I was like, this is the route. And not actually slowing down and being like, is this actually still what I want to do? Put all the eggs in the being gone all the time touring basket. Yeah. And so, yeah, it's been exciting to be like, no, I can actually set it up to where I don't have to just automatically go back on the road to make money. Because that's where a vast majority of my income comes from, is I have to be not in my bed at night in order to make money.
That's right.
Because I'm a stripper. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah. That's.
I was going to say it's the OnlyFans that you're going to, the Patreon OnlyFans that comes with this podcast for free.
25 years ago, there were people that made records and like studio drummers and stuff like that. But I don't, that's not really a thing anymore. And like,
there's like 4 guys.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. And so it's just, you're right, Ben. It's like, it's such a cruel reality that like, in order to get something going professionally, like, I mean, and this is another thing, not to be doom and gloom, but like my friend Kris was in town and we were talking about like, I don't think there are like gigs anymore the way that used to be. Like, old man yells at cloud, I know, but like when I was living in New York, like I could like, granted my lifestyle was much cheaper and all this, but it's like I was playing 5 or 6 like gigs, $100, $200 gigs a week and like making my rent. And I don't even think that's really I don't even know that that's an option now, and certainly like that hasn't kept pace with cost of living. So even if you do somehow have $500 gigs a week in LA, like good luck to you for that. You know what I mean? Like that's not going to get it going. So like, yeah, you do have to tour. And in my case, you have to be gone to do it. And it's a weird thing where I think about this sometimes, like when somebody calls with a gig, like when I was 25, I would have been like, oh, cool. Yeah, I got a gig. But now when somebody calls, I'm like, oh, a gig. Shoot. All right. How am I going to work this? It sounds like a humble braggy thing, and I don't mean it to sound that way, but it's just, what I'm saying is you get older and your priorities change and your life changes and what you need to stay afloat changes and what your reality looks like just changes and you have to roll with it. And it sounds like you're doing that in your world too. Yeah.
It didn't come across negative at all. I thought it's good to hear from you. You're the epitome of a working drummer. And I don't think it's doom and gloom. It's not even nihilistic. It's just, you have to acknowledge truth. You have to acknowledge what's going on to then navigate it. And I don't live in New York, so I can't speak to exactly what's going on there right now. But from what I hear from friends, yeah, it's not great.
Yeah. I just think it's like, used to be, you would play that $100 gig and go around the corner to your $400 apartment. But now, if that $100 gig still exists, it still pays $100, but that apartment is $4,000.
Yeah.
So there's external, environmental, economic factors that you have nothing to do. Again, back to not having control over a situation. I can't control the fact that real estate in LA is what it is. You know what I mean?
Definitely going to echo what Mark said too about the leaving the family and getting your house ready and making sure like I have a landscaper lined up for the summer and snow plowing and all that good stuff. It's definitely challenging, and the same kind of thing too. It's like when I get the call, like, all right, we're up for this tour. We're like, it's a really good chance we're going to get it. I'm like, when do I tell my wife? When do I tell my wife?
Yeah, I know.
I don't know. But she's always psyched. Like I'm not painting her in a bad light here. She's a huge supporter, and she's always, but I'm just like, and then, not to be like I'm one-upping you, but at the same time, like I do all the house stuff, and then I'm like, okay, now I got to figure out how to leave the business.
Yeah.
In some kind of fashion too, where, Big Fat Snare Drum's a very small company, and the lady who does all our retail distribution, I'm then like, hey, so can you do the website for me while I'm gone also? Because I do the website when I'm home, and I love doing it. But then I got to figure out how to get that to her, and then figure out inventory and move that stuff around, and then maybe scale down the website, and then I have to figure out how to work when I'm on the road as well too, which is a whole other bag of hammers. I could do an entire podcast on my crazy touring schedule. I'm going to probably also complain Not that you guys are complaining, but I'm going to complain about about my 2025. It's kind of drummer adjacent. Was just our company finally got really hit by tariffs and supply chain issues. So it was a very, very challenging year. I had to learn a lot of new things, make a lot of new relationships, which similar, I guess, to what we were talking about at the beginning of this podcast. I don't know what the sequence is going to be in the final edit because I know Ben is an editing machine.
He sure is. Thank God.
But like I was having a really hard time with one of the components of our products, and I was able to like cast a net out to all my friends in the drum community and be like, can somebody please help me here? And the amount of love and support I got back was incredible, just from people coming out of the woodwork and just relationships that I've made from being in the drum community and relationships from the drum company. I was able to figure out the problem and get a whole new supply chain. Things are great. Things are fine. I kind of sounded like our president there, but I'm not meaning to be. Yeah. So I guess kind of it's like a full circle story where things were horrendous. And now I think we're good. I think we have enough material to make drums till the end of this year. So drum heads, not drums.
Good for you, man. That's great news. That's really, really good news. It's crazy to think about how one person's sort of half-baked, whimsical economic plan ripples out to where some guy that makes things that you put on snare drums is having a hard time. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, that's
crazy.
such a massive, there's so many far-reaching implications to one executive level economic decision. It boggles the mind.
I'll let Ben's listeners peek behind the curtain a little bit of what we were going through. Is that a component for our drum head, like a roll of this material would usually cost us like between $4,000 and $5,000. And we would order it a lot during the year. And that one roll was now going to be $60,000.
Yikes.
I mean, I couldn't ask one of our customers to be like, cool, do you want to change the tone of your head for $55?
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's just so. But that was my 2025, and then 2026 is the end of 2025 was great, and then now this is hopefully going to be a really good year for us.
Well, so you guys have both like turned some big corners, but you know, if you, Kris, kind of worked around this tariff scare, let's call it, and Ben, you kind of have this new outlook on ADHD, like those are great accomplishments. And also I want to back up for a second. You mentioned casually like, oh, when I moved to LA 10 years ago, like let's focus on, you know, I'm not trying to be a cheerleading coach here, but it's like what a great 10 good years of work. Like, look where you are, you know, that 10 years paid off, dude. Like you did it the real way. You're really in the game, you know?
For sure, and I appreciate you saying that. And I just did. You weren't able to make it, but I know you were invited to the LA Drum Club.
Yep.
Just to be part of that crew and just be surrounded by giants. It was like, I do feel like I have a community. I guess it's just I still am so bad at asking for help. I don't know what's deep-seated therapy I have to do to go through that, but it is so. I just don't want people to know that I'm not doing just great at all times. Sometimes I feel like I'm just a flailing guy here, you know, but it's the industry. You know, most people like, oh, one day I'm going to be in the industry. And then you wake up at 70 and you're like, oh, I've been in the industry for 50 years.
Yeah.
And I keep saying one day I'll be a working drummer. But
yeah, I know that feeling. Yeah. It's like some kind of Pinocchio, like I want to be a real boy.
Exactly.
You know? Like, yeah.
One more question and then I'll let you guys go. But what is your...
Thank God. Oh,
yeah.
sorry.
What I know, it's basically become a therapy session for me. I just say what I don't know, and then I have two friends that I look up to talk me off a ledge.
Yeah.
But what are your guys' biggest fears on stage?
I can speak to this.
Please, yeah.
Sometimes, like, you know, Wallflower, like it's that thing where drummers, like, I get kind of stressed out sometimes about like, okay, this is like this is the douchiest one. I'm just gonna own it.
Okay.
Wallflowers, we got to play at Madison Square Garden, and that was a big deal for me. That was a huge deal for me.
That's crazy, yeah.
And I was like, I held it together, but like, I'll just have this thought in the middle of the gig of like, if I stopped playing, 30,000 people would just be like, what is that guy's problem? You know what I mean? And that generates, I need to talk to Dave Elitch about this, or probably like it hasn't risen to the level of real freaky outy, but like it's definitely crossed my mind. I know
exactly what you're talking about.
Dude, you know what I'm talking about. And I was talking to a therapist at a Christmas party, and we were talking about this thing. And there's a term for it. I think it was Camus or Sartre, or one of the French guys. about something having to do with staring into the abyss. It's that same phenomenon of when you're like standing on a bridge and you're like, I could just jump off this bridge. Like you're not having suicidal ideation. It's not that. I'm not joking about that at all. But just this idea that like, whoa, I could just grind this whole thing to a halt right now. And like I've had some like gnarly internal moments on stage, like just trying to talk myself off speaking of talking oneself off the ledge, of like talking myself off the ledge, just internal, mental stuff. And I think it's really is just this embarrassing thing where like our brains are just too big now, and there's, no tiger chasing me around a plane, but my brain thinks that maybe there is one there, and that's just general anxiety or whatever. But I've had it for sure, like, maximize like on stage to where I'm like, it even will like manifest or get into like physical stuff. Like, what if I just had to throw up right now or something like that? You know what I mean? And you're like, it's this feeling of being trapped, like It would never occur to me walking down the street, like, well, what if I had to throw up? I would just throw up. You know what I mean? But like when you're locked into this situation where you're like, I can't go anywhere because these people are all looking at me. I mean, they're looking at the singer, but again, if I stop playing, that's going to be kind of a problem. And that has become a little bit of a source of anxiety for me, for sure.
Well, if it helps you, I feel the exact same way. Like I look at my hands and I'm doing like just like a basic eighth note rock beat, and I'm like, look, what if my right hand just stopped doing what it's supposed to be doing right now, and it just stopped?
It's a what if thing, right? What if?
Because it's almost akin to claustrophobia, because you can't move, you can't leave, you're on stage.
Yes.
You're like, what if I just ran off stage? And then you're like, well, then I'd lose my job. There'd be videos of it. I would never get hired again. So you're just like, all right, just got to keep going. And it's crazy. And it's a weird, like a depersonalization moment. And luckily I've been able to, and I'm seemingly you have, and you continue to, you can just be like, shut the hell up, dude. Just fucking stop doing that. And then my brain's like, all right, I know your gig's on the line, so I'm going to let you have this. But the second we go to bed tonight, we're going to be thinking about it. But yeah, no, I think that happens to a lot more people than they admit, for sure.
I'll say this super quick, and then so we don't monopolize this from Kris, but like one thing that actually helps me, and it's every fourth or fifth gig, this is the case. If it's outside, or even better, if I can see the back of the room, and even better than that, if there are windows in the venue and I can see cars outside, it sort of reminds me, I'm like, oh, right, this doesn't actually matter. This is like, this is a couple thousand people in a world full of 8 billion people. This stupid thing that you're doing is not, nobody actually care. Like all these people that are driving by, they don't even know that you're in here. So like, relax, it's fine,
I thought Mark was going to say if he was going to fear that if he hit a crash cymbal on one headlight, that Jacob was going to smack him in the face.
I did that one time on a gig, and he didn't actually notice, but long story, but I'll tell you later. But yeah, I did it once, but the crew guys were just like, whoa, like they was like freaking out. Something else happened basically. And I was like really nervous, and I was focused on something else. So I was like, why are these guys even looking at me? And then afterwards they both came up to me in this really timid way, and they were like, did you notice that did you see that they were on one headlight? And I was like, what? And they're like, you played a crash. And I was like, oh, damn. But he didn't care. He didn't notice. He wasn't paying attention.
Sorry, I unlocked a whole new fear for you.
No.
Yeah, I was going to say that everything you guys spoke about definitely used to cross my brain. And I played with an artist many years ago, and I think he like caught on to that was kind of going on with me. And he gave me this whole like spiel about kind of just resetting. And you can reset within a song, and you can reset after a song. So if you're having like a weird moment during the song, whether it's playing or you're getting in your own head, or like the stick thing, or your posture is not correct, or you're like sweating, or you're hot, or you're nauseous, or you don't feel good, you can reset. Like there's a new chorus coming up. Okay, it's a new part of a song. I'm going to reset. Just focus on something else. Just reset. And it does work for me somehow, I
like that. That's good advice.
You also said, Kris, sometimes you hold a stick weird.
You know what I'll actually do, which is a really weird one, is there's two weird things that I'll do. I'll sit on a stick sometimes.
Yeah, you're creating discomfort, right?
Well, I'll hold a drum key.
That's what it is. You hold a drum key while you're playing.
I'll hold a drum key in my snare hand. Especially like during sound check, I'll do that just to kind of get my brain, because I know in sound check I'll have a tendency to play like a fill really fast and then just be like, just kind of botch it while I'm like warming up, and I know it's just like local crew there, and like people walking around, but I don't want to sound like a dumbass.
Yeah.
But my brain is definitely transformed from that. And Ben is 100% right. It's definitely always Ableton for me. It's always like the tech side of the show. Because I'm kind of the guy who sets all the gear up for the show, and I build all the racks and all the tech for the tour. And so I'm always just like sitting there playing drums, just staring at our RF or our in-ears. I'm just like, please, nobody get a hit. Nobody get an RF hit during the show. Ableton, please, come on, just
hang in there, buddy.
The fifth song is over. Come on. I mean, if the thing freaks out now, I guess we could do the rest acoustic.
Right.
It's like stuff like brain just does that. And I know if we have a show where it's like the stage is set up immaculate, the computer boots perfectly during sound check. I know there's not a lot of knuckleheads hanging around on the stage. Like my brain is like, all right, like if we're headlining a show and I have total control of all that stuff, I think my brain is eased as far as the tech portion of it, and I can enjoy playing drums more. I know it's even as crazy as like, oh, this venue has clean power. Like, great, we're good. Like I'm looking at our Furman, and it's like, oh, it's like 119, 120. Okay, cool, we're good. It's not like dipping to like 112, and I'm like, oh god, the Ableton's gonna stop playing back like in the third song and start beeping through the PA.
Yeah, but Kris, I would argue that that's like what Ben and I are talking about. Like what you're talking about is like a real, genuine concern.
But it's not though. It like literally in all the years I've done playback, it crapped out on us once, and the venue did have bad power, and there was nothing we could do about it.
Okay.
It's not a real fear.
I see.
I mean, it kind of is, but I mean, yeah.
Yeah, I don't even want to know if you, or I guess I'll say when that gets to the point where you guys have a monitor guy and a playback guy, if that's not on your plate anymore, you're going to be like, I don't know what to do with my hands. I just have to be a drummer. That's crazy.
Well, I'll tell you this, okay? So how crazy my brain works. So one of the gigs I did play, I did have a drum tech, and I had everything you said. And I could not help myself but to get to sound check early all the time, make sure my mix was good, wait for my drum tech to actually leave the premises, and I can fix all the stuff that he did not do right. I actually got yelled at by the tour manager early on in the gig because I was helping him put my drum set away.
Yep.
And the perception was wrong.
Crew guys get kind of weirdly bent out of shape about that if they feel like you're making them look not pro.
Yeah. He really wasn't a drum tech. He was kind of like a stage manager guy, and it was one of those gigs where you needed to get off the stage like super quick. Like it was a festival. We needed to get off quick, and he was knocking down DJ stuff.
Yep.
And so I was just knocking down my drum kit, which I've done for 40 years, But that's just, to answer your question, Ben, I'd have to have literally like A-level guys that I implicitly trusted to be like, cool.
That's good though, Kris. You're a solution in search of a problem,
Yeah.
That's a good thing, like people need that,
Yeah. So that's my thing during a show. Yeah. I think the weirdly enough, like the playing doesn't bug me out anymore. It's all the other stuff. The last tour we did, we had a bunch of like little production things, and one of the things was like I rigged up 3 bubble machines on the downstage, and in the last like 20 seconds of the show, I had a remote that would trigger off all the bubble machines, and that would give me like great anxiety. Like the last 3 songs, I'm like, please, and it became like a running joke. Like one of them would like never work.
Yeah.
Like 2 out of 3 would always go off, and
yeah.
And then one of the shows, the one that gave me a problem, I actually got electrocuted by it because somebody accidentally like must have kicked it over and put all the bubble solution went into the motor, and I went to turn it on and I was like touching it and I just full on got electrocuted.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
The Bubble Solution sounds like an indie band from 2007.
Yep. Sounds like your OnlyFans name.
Ooh.
That was taken. I'm actually the Bubble Solution too. Mine's just the bass drum. This actually happened 2 days ago where I was so happy it happened because I'm playing like a NAMM showcase with all of our friends. We know Stacy Jones and Max and all that stuff. And I was going to bring that drum set, and I probably would have brought that kick drum head. And it just, at the end of one of my practices, it just went through. And I was like, if this would have happened, and it's happened before with me on stage.
Yeah, me too.
It really, you can't, it has to be solved. You can't just like, I mean, there's been times where the bass drum pedal has kind of gone loose, and I've had to, for the last outro, just done the floor tom, kind of 4 on the floor, whatever, to get it done. But yeah, if that thing breaks, you're shit out of luck.
See, I always have like a floor tom head just down by my floor tom, and like worst case scenario, I can duct tape it to the hole.
Oh,
in probably less than 30 seconds, and that would get you through the night. You know what I mean?
That's a good idea.
I would have never thought about that. Yeah, you just...
I mean, Jesus, sorry, not to be Captain Obvious here, but wouldn't a big fat snare drum be really good for that?
That work too.
Yeah.
Aquarium makes a super patch just for that exact situation.
Yep.
It's like a 10-inch, really adhesive patch that just goes right over the hole. But you actually bring up a good point too. Like I think people don't change out their kick drum head enough. You definitely need to do it because I think it starts feeling like garbage. I think the rebound gets really weird because you're obviously hitting in the same, whatever, like 2-3 inches over and over again. And I'm definitely like, I've had drum kits where I've left the tom heads for like 5 years and they still sound great, but I'll always keep changing the kick drum head.
Yeah.
Every tour I'll change the kick head, always.
Oh, wow. I don't do it every tour. I probably don't, I might not play as hard as you, Kris, but I've definitely started for example, I just ordered 5 kick drum heads every January. Every year we're doing this, like at the beginning of every year. And then that way I know, because when it happens, and the singer's pissed off and the production manager's pissed off and it's like, well, when's the last time you changed the head? If you're like, well, let's see, when did Obama, let's see, you know what I mean? Like, then that's kind of on you, you know what I mean? But if, I don't know, in my mind, if I'm like, I changed it January 1st, you know, like I'm doing my due diligence, you know, that's what I can do, you know?
And that's the show. If you're listening on a platform that allows ratings and reviews, do that. It helps more people find the show, so it'll get bigger and better, and hopefully I'll have a chance to sell out one day. But you'll be an OG listener that can brag to all your friends. Anyways, why don't you go and check us out at bigfatsnaredrum.com and follow us on all the socials. Just search for Big Fat Snare Drum, and you will find us. The show is edited in part using iZotope RX Audio Editor. It's amazing, so go check that out at iZotope.com. And thanks again to Gunnar Olsen for the theme music. Bye!